Hey y'all, what is going on? What is going on? It's your girl, Melba Pearson, Melba for Miami, Melba for Justice, also known as the resident legal diva. And it is time for another Mondays with Melba. Hope everyone had a great weekend. I know we had a very intense Mondays with Melba last week, honoring Indigenous Peoples Day. Probably one of the first times I got emotional on air while doing one of these shows because everything they said just resonated with me on such just a gut level. So anyway, I hope it impacted you as much as it did me. And definitely let's, take that as an opportunity to learn more and to engage in fights that may not necessarily be perceived as directly as our own, but impact us all the same. So in that same vein, wanted to talk to another amazing person who has raised her hand and is trying for public office. And let me tell you something, having gone down that path, I have much respect for anybody who wants to do something positive for our communities. And most importantly, in my backyard, Miami Beach. So Tanya Bhatt, welcome to Mondays with Melba. And I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Well, thank you for having me, Melba. It's an honor to be here, and I am so excited to chat with you.
Awesome. So you are running for Miami Beach Commission, and the election is literally right around the corner, November 7th. Can you share a little bit about, first of all, introduce yourself to the viewers and listeners, and just tell them a little bit about yourself, your background, and why you want to run for office?
Why I'm this crazy and what am I doing?
Yeah, so many questions. Yeah.
Yes, like that. Yeah. So, I'm not a career politician. This is not something that I am doing to get someplace else. This is something that I'm doing because I chose to live here. I moved here almost 21 years ago with my kids, who were 1 and 3 at the time. Now they're 21 and 23. I don't know how that happened because I am so young and fabulous, but they're adults. And, but around 2015 or so, I started getting involved in local activism, as one does, because that's how we all get involved in stuff. And the more involved I got, the more involved I was asked to get. And the more I saw things that really didn't make sense, not a whole lot of basic blocking and tackling and good solutions and collegiality and problem solving. And I was just super frustrated. And I felt like not only did we deserve better as a city and as residents, but that I could do better. I felt like my skill set lent itself really pretty directly to a lot of the stuff that was happening. I'm a voracious reader. I'm very good at bringing people together from very different points of view and building consensus. I'm a problem solver. I'm pragmatic. I have deeply held values and ideals, and I try to share those in a pragmatic way with others who kind of end up coming along for the ride with me on them. And so it became something I was interested in. And earlier this year, things changed in my life just enough to give me this one window of opportunity to toss my hat in the ring and go for it. And here I am since February 15, which is when I filed. I kind of joked that it was my love letter to Miami Beach, the city that I chose to be my home. And we're less than a month out. Election day is a month from tomorrow. And I can't wait.
Woo. So, so much to unpack here, so much to unpack. When you talked about issues of civility and collegiality, it is just sad how trashy some of our commission meetings can be. And it's not even like a debate about issues. It becomes more about cult of personality and who can scream over who, and again, that does not serve the people of Miami Beach. So, but I want to dive a little deeper into what your skill set is. So what unique talent and viewpoints are you bringing to this race, as well as to the position of commissioner when you are successful?
So I am not independently wealthy. I don't come from an independently wealthy family. My dad worked for Singer sewing machines, and I chose my parents really well because the second my dad graduated from Columbia Business School, he and my mom were already married. They were, met when they were embryos practically, and have been together ever since. And they're like, okay, we need to go travel the world on somebody else's dime. And he basically took the first job that offered him that opportunity without a year in Rochester or Indianapolis, which are lovely places, but he wanted to go overseas. And so the first skill set that I have is a gift from my parents, which is this understanding and deep fundamental appreciation for the fact there are lots of ways to get things done. And we in Miami Beach have this tendency to have a revolving door of looking no further afield than what's going on in Miami-Dade County or the city of Miami or what's happened previously in Miami Beach. Now, don't get me wrong, those are useful touch points, but they are not the sole solutions. And so when I see us wrestling with problems that other cities or countries even are dealing with, whether it's using oysters along coastlines or other waterways to try to clean up the water issues or, resiliency issues. And there are countries who are dealing with this on much smaller budgets than we are. Why aren't we picking up the phone and saying, yo, hi, I'm from Miami Beach. We're dealing with this too. I want to know everything you know. Let's talk. Because people love to share what they've learned. And so that's a big thing. Also, collegiality and respect for each other's opinions is enormous. You alluded to it, Melba, not to use too fancy a term, but a lot of our commission meetings turn into pissing contests. And it's really offensive. It's offensive that the staff who have spent days or weeks or months or longer sometimes are being so devalued and disrespected that the work that they've prepared for doesn't even get heard and gets deferred from meeting to meeting to meeting. It's disrespectful and deeply offensive to residents who may have taken the day off work to come to a time certain that doesn't get called for 3 hours later or never gets called. It is a terrible, terrible precedent to set where you literally spend time listening to commissioners yelling at each other. I mean, I build consensus. I've led volunteer organizations. I'm the vice chair of the planning board. I sit in the historic preservation seat, and people are like, ooh, that must be really difficult. And it's been a deep pleasure. I've been on the board almost 3 years now, closing out on 3 years. And I've been able to, through thoughtful discussion and respect for opinions, move the board to a more centrist position, which serves the city and the applicants and the residents better. Because you take a project that you may or may not like, it's irrelevant, it's coming before you, and you make it better. You make it better than when it came in because you're expressing different viewpoints, you're incorporating other people's ideas, you're hearing what the drawbacks or benefits might be, what the roadblocks might be, and you problem solve together. And it's fun. It's like I'm such a nerd, but it is one of my favorite days of the month because I love this work. And, similarly, I've been the president of Miami Beach United, which is a not-for-profit volunteer advocacy group trying to build a bridge between City Hall and residents and empower residents to know what's going on and how to get involved and become their own HOAs or, associations that can advocate for their neighborhoods. And we literally do the same work that the commission does in that when the agenda is published, we review it and pull out, let's say, 15 items that we discuss as a group and determine if we should take them up as issues. And then if we do, let's say turns into 8 or 12, we discuss the issues. So we've got 15 people on a Friday evening. The meetings generally start at 4:30, not at a bar, I might add. And we're going through and we are discussing the pros and cons of an issue. And sometimes we agree right away, and sometimes we have wildly divergent opinions. And I have never had to call a timeout. I've never had to adjourn a meeting. There has never been name calling. And I know that if I can do it there, I can do it on the commission. And I firmly believe that leadership comes from any seat in the room. It doesn't have to have a title attached to it. And I cannot wait to lead by example.
I love it. I love it. Because one gentleman that I really respected once said that you can lead from any position. Like a true leader can lead from any position. You don't always have to be at the front of the line. You can lead from the back. So that really resonated with me when you said that. So in terms of, all the issues you talked about, how you're able to bring consensus and all of that, what are the top 3 things that you feel that you need to tackle day one? You win, you get sworn in. What are the top 3 things that you want to address?
It's interesting. I've been canvassing from tip to tail of this island. And what I started noticing last year and a little bit before then, but as these referenda kind of were being soundly defeated by residents, that there was a commonality of concern. And that hasn't really happened to this degree since I've been following what's going on in the city. And now there's really like sort of this upswell of frustration, and it's the same 3 or 4 issues regardless of where you live. And your details might be different if you're living in a garden apartment in North Beach versus if you're living in a penthouse south of Fifth, but the issues remain the same, right? And there's one issue, which is sort of the overall public safety, feeling secure in your neighborhood, bringing order to chaos that is not super welcome. That's one big issue. And the other issues are all really byproducts of overdevelopment. And so it's not a simple 3, it's kind of this mishmash of all of them. And the public safety is really, we don't want Miami Beach to be an us and them community. We want everybody to be welcome. We want people who have built their lives here, who've built their businesses here, who've saved their pennies to come on a vacation here, to be welcome. But here's what we will not accept, what I will not tolerate. If you don't respect our home, if you trash our home, if you do not abide by the same behavior that your mom or your grandma would expect of you, I'm sorry, you're not welcome here. Take that nonsense someplace else. And that doesn't mean don't have fun, don't go out to clubs, don't go dancing, don't do, there's a million fabulous things to do here. Go to the beach, go to the museum, hear live music, go to a club, eat amazing food. Don't do any of those things and just hang out looking at the waves. We have so much to do, but do it with respect to the community in which you find yourself. And that applies to visitors, that applies to business operators. Let's not appeal to the lowest common denominator. Let's not let other people define who we are. Let's entice people to our city because they love who we are and want to experience that, whether they choose to move their family here, their business here, their vacation here, their wedding party here. That's what we want. And we don't need more rules on the books. We have a ton of rules on the books. We need consistent enforcement. We need consistent enforcement every day, every neighborhood, all the time, every day of the year, not just sometimes, not just in some areas, but it's everywhere. And I cannot tell you the number of people I've door knocked are like, the only reason I know cops are in this city because one lives across the street from me. But I never see a cop here, and there are dudes dealing drugs at the park where I walk my dog. If I know this, clearly everybody else knows this. We can do better. We must do better. We need cops out of their cars, walking the beat, knowing the neighbors, knowing the businesses, welcoming the visitors, answering questions. I remember being a kid in New York City, in the late 70s or early 80s. And came out of a subway station, all turned around, and I asked the cop, and he was nice, and he, answered the question, and I straightened his tie, and he thought I was insane. And I went on my merry way. There was no, obviously I'm like a little short glasses wearing dorky kid, so he wasn't going to be super mean to me. But the fact that I could just ask somebody in a figure of, in an authority figure for basic information is what we should be here. We are a welcoming place, and we need to get back to that. So that's the public safety. And there's so much more on that. I'm happy to take questions offline, or if anybody wants to reach out to me, I could talk for hours about any of these issues, but I know we don't have that much time. Welcome back. Homelessness and all the issues attendant with that is a huge deal as well. The numbers are getting better. The resources that we are putting towards these issues is significant. I was on a patrol with the homeless outreach team a few months ago, and we were able to take somebody who had a tough story and was quite belligerent and get her on the path to finding shelter and getting healthy and all that stuff. We also found somebody who was sleeping in the bushes who had a bench warrant out for his arrest. So he went in a different direction. We didn't even get 4 blocks before our resource group was tapped out, and we had to go back and get more folks. So, it is work in progress. There's work to be done. The numbers are getting better. Doesn't change how you feel when you have to walk into traffic to avoid somebody who's having, a psychotic break or is really high and is unsafe. I'm not minimizing that, but I'm just saying that it is getting better. And at the same time, we still need to commit to making it better than it already is. So that's kind of the public safety thing. Um, the overdevelopment thing
Yes.
is big. It's enormous. No pun intended. It's enormous. And I'm not against development. I know that when I was appointed to the planning board, everybody had a nervous breakdown because I have a history of historic preservation and being quite outspoken. And yeah, I'm against egregious, obnoxious, unnecessary, thoughtless overdevelopment. I am very much in favor of adaptive reuse, thoughtful development that encourages the community to get involved, to work with the community to say, hey, we have an idea to do X. How does X fit in here? Oh, we don't need X, but we need Y. Oh, that's cool. We can do that. But the biggest problem is that our commission, and because of our commission directing our administration, which, by the way, is not how it's supposed to happen, but that's another topic for another time. Our commission and our staff spend inordinate amounts of time and resources, and basically our tax dollars, trying to work to fit square pegs into round holes. They are acting as glorified zoning boards instead of, they're much more interested in raising our skyline than they are interested in fixing our sewer lines. And that has to stop. It has to stop. It's one of the biggest reasons why I'm running. We're a fragile barrier island. We're 7 miles of sand in the middle of the Atlantic. We have sewer lines rupturing. I lived on Parkview Island for 6 years. And for 3 of those years, the water was unusable and is still toxic. And, finally, after a ton of agitation, outreach, and media spotlighting and, banging on the proverbial table to get attention, we're getting that attention now, finally, but it's very slow. And if I hadn't been, a busybody who happened to know the right person to call saying, what's the deal? We're not getting straight answers. They would never have addressed it, right? And that's not how this should be. We are surrounded by water. Water doesn't know barriers. And we need to protect this incredible resource, not only because it's a huge economic driver, but at the end of the day, as goes Biscayne Bay and the Atlantic Ocean, as goes the rest of this planet.
Basically.
Yeah, I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, but yeah, and we have resiliency issues, and we have affordable housing for the missing middle, and at every level crises, and we have traffic issues that are insane. We have a building right now going up. I don't think you can see it in my background. It's sort of the other part of North Beach, but at one of the busiest intersections of the city. It's a 22-story building. A second one just was proposed to the HPB that's going to be almost as big. It's going to have not only studios and single 1 and 2 bedroom apartments starting at $800,000, but it's also going to have micro units, which are zoned short-term rentals. That is a lot of flushing toilets. And those 2 buildings are the first of 13 that are going up in an 8x6 square block area of North Beach. It's shocking. And so if you had said to me, 13 buildings in all of North Beach, I would have been like, whoa, that's kind of a lot, but okay. But in this little area, it's bonkers. And, what we should be doing, and what our city does not do or has not done in a very long time, is stopping and thinking, right? What do we have? Where are we at this point of time? What do we have too much of? What don't we have enough of? What would be nice to have if we could? And then put together a sort of comprehensive strategic plan, and take a look at the city from a holistic perspective, and then put together ideas of how we want to get there, and reach out to people who would like to help us get there. We don't need, listen, if you can buy a $20 million apartment as your primary residence, God bless. But we don't need more of that. We need, where do our teachers live? Where do our firefighters live? I mean, 90% of our city staff cannot afford to live here. That's bonkers. And I know I keep saying the word bonkers. I'm sorry. But I think that's an urban planning term.
But I mean, I think of, when I first moved to the beach, Tanya, back in 1997, I had a cute little apartment on Meridian, and a lot of my neighbors were in the hospitality industry, right? So where do our servers live? Where does the barista at Starbucks live? Where does, the person that's bagging your groceries at Trader Joe's or Publix live? It's shameful that people who work on the beach can't live on the beach. And we've done nothing to address that. So yeah, definitely co-sign what you're saying.
Yeah, no, it's really shameful. I mean, we are a hospitality driven city. And so if the people who make the hospitality run aren't here, that's a huge problem. It adds traffic to the commute times coming over the bridge. There's so many attendant issues that are rolled into this whole thing. And now, we are preempted by Tallahassee from doing a lot of things that would alleviate this. We're not allowed to manage our short-term rental laws anymore. We've been preempted. They are trying to preempt us in what we allow to get built in our city. We're not allowed to vote on increased density. Thank you, Governor DeSantis. There are more things coming down the pike. The notion of building the Bay Link, which I understand the value of public transportation, having lived in cities like Boston and London and New York and places where that, you don't even need a car in those cities. But the proposal that is being put forth, trying to be rammed down our throats by the county, is not a good proposal for a lot of reasons, not least of which is that there is this upzoning that is attendant to that rapid transit. It's called the rapid transit zone. And at this point, they are not willing to carve Miami Beach out of that. Now, listen, if you're trying to figure out how to invigorate parts of unincorporated Dade County, this is a great idea. It makes a ton of sense. But we're not the same as unincorporated Dade County. We are a tiny, finite, overbuilt sandbar with 82,000 people living here. And we can't just put up skyscrapers. It's not good for the environment. It's not good for what makes our city special. I mean, nobody's spending a ton of money going to visit Sunny Isles. And I can guarantee you, nobody's going to come spend a ton of money visiting Sunny Isles South. And Miami Beach is only behind Disney World in terms of the amount of money we send to Tallahassee.
Wow.
Right. So, don't bite the hand that feeds you, is what I'm saying.
Well, my thoughts on the governor and the importance of home rule and the fact that that's been stripped away is very problematic for so many reasons. But that's a whole other show, because literally we can go down the rabbit hole of, home rule and why that's so critical, and why it being taken away from us is incredibly problematic. But
no, I mean, thank goodness for the League of Cities. We need everybody reaching out to them and, joining together, because there is strength in numbers. But let's definitely have that conversation too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, a couple more questions before we wrap up. First off, I know you've gotten, since you're not a career politician and you're somebody who has, now I believe this is your first run for office, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you've been able to really draw support from some interesting folks. So who are some of the organizations that have endorsed you or that are supporting your campaign for commission?
Yeah, it's thank you for asking. It's really humbling to see the coalition of support that I've gotten, both from individuals in the city who have been mentors to me and who I've worked with for years, and so know who I am and what I stand for and how I work. Everybody from former commissioners Saul Gross and Nancy Liebman, who was just last week inducted to the Miami Beach Hall of Fame. The late Mark Samuelin actually was the person who asked me to join Miami Beach United, and I was doing a meet and greet in an apartment building, and Ron Starkman, whom also is on Miami Beach United with me and is on the board of SOFNA and it's on the city's budget committee. It did an introduction for me, and he actually caught me by surprise by talking about how I follow in Mark's footsteps in so many ways. And that was really meaningful. Mark had asked me to run for office a couple of times, and it just, I was working full time. There's no way that I could do that with the job that I had at the time. So residents from North Beach all the way down to south of Fifth, and homeowners associations. And that is so meaningful because, they know me and they value me. But the thing that's been really amazing on this journey is the folks I've gotten to know, and the people who over the course of the year have stepped up to say, you know what, we get it. We recognize who you are. We recognize what you stand for. We share your values, and we want to help you over that finish line. And so literally just before this conversation, I was informed that I got the endorsement of the AFL-CIO, and I could not be prouder of that, because the missing middle is a huge issue around the country. And not just in terms of affordable housing, but dignity of work and being able to retire and being able to not have to make a choice between medicine, food, and rent. And, as the labor unions were eviscerated, the middle class has fallen apart. And I'm thrilled that there are so many union activities, labor activities over the course of the year, this year particularly, but going back a few years to Amazon and Starbucks, which you thought would never happen. Right. So that is that's huge. And it's a big deal because we have so many unionized employees who work in our city, and we need to make sure they're getting their fair share. I mean, we're not suggesting that everybody should be able to buy a 200-foot yacht. God, we don't need more of those silly things, but we do think it's fair that you should be able to live. They call me crazy. So that just happened this morning. I have also been enthusiastically endorsed, and I'm thrilled with all three of these as well, by Save LGBT, which is a super impactful and important organization for all of those standing up for all of these issues that affect our bodily autonomy, whether it's who we choose to love or how we choose to dress or how we, what books we're allowed to read to our kids. And, so that's amazing. That is a thrill. And also I've been endorsed by the Miami Beach Dems, the Democratic Club of Miami Beach, which didn't come as a huge surprise because I have been very active on the national level. I think I did several 100,000 texts in the 2020 election for text banking, and 1,200 postcards and about 150 letters, because I was working full time. So I couldn't take days off and canvas, but I did it my way. So like Frank Sinatra, I did it my way. And then also the Flamingo Dems, which is kind of like a combination of both Save and the Miami Beach Dems. So I have a really wonderful, these wonderful gusts of wind beneath my wings, and I'm proud and honored, and I will not let anyone down.
Oh, that is just awesome to hear. Thank you, Tanya. So final pitch, let everybody know where they can go to donate, sign up to volunteer, text bank for you, anything like that. And of course, remind people when the election is.
Yes. Okay. So the last day to register to vote is tomorrow. Is October. Oh, let's see.
Yeah, it says So I think the deadline to register to vote already passed. So
yes. Okay. So I got my dates.
Hopefully you're already registered.
Yes. So hopefully you're registered. You can still request a vote by mail ballot, and if you voted by mail before, you still have to request it again, because our governor, in his infinite wisdom, decided that everybody was getting kicked off and you have to resubmit your request. That's easy to do online or with a phone call. Election day is November 7th. Early voting starts in Miami Beach on October 23rd. You can vote in Miami Beach early. It's very easy to do. There are no lines. You can do it at City Hall, and you can do it at the North Shore Library, which is at 75th and Collins. You can go to the Miami Beach fl.gov city website and type in election information, and all the times and locations will pop up there. There are a couple links you'll have to click. To get in touch with me, you can go to tanyaformiamibeach.com. That's my website. You can donate there. And my opponent is a developer crony, and he is going to be funded, or he is being funded by developers. And he and I could not be a more dialectically opposed set of candidates. I mean, we stand for exactly the opposite of each other. And so every dollar helps. I'm running a super lean campaign. It's me and my consultant, and that's it. And so I'm the one door knocking. I'm the one writing the copy. You're not paying tons of staffers. It's going to our communications plan. And so it's every dollar helps, and it's super critical to get us over the finish line. Donation link is on that site. Email for me is on that site. It goes straight to my phone. And if you want to give me a call and talk about issues, I'm at 305-874-0830. And listen, this is our campaign to build a better Miami Beach for all of us. So I might be the one sitting at the dais, but I'm there for you. And any idea, is worth discussing. Ideas come from everywhere, and I can't wait to serve all of us and hear from you specifically.
Awesome. So folks, you heard it. I'm going to drop the links in the body of this post as well as in the comments. So you will have everything you need to learn more about Tanya. And if you feel so moved to support her, you can do so by donating, whether it be money or your time. Because again, as Tanya just mentioned, she did a ton of text banking and postcard writing and things like that in support of candidates, because she was working full time and couldn't knock doors. So there's a role for everybody if you want to support a candidate, especially somebody who is grassroots and trying to just do the right thing for our community. So Tanya, thank you so much for this. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us, especially now in the final push. Wishing you the best of luck and looking forward to having you again on in the near future.
It was an honor, Melba. Thank you for inviting me. I look forward to continuing this conversation, and I thank you for all of your support and good wishes. And, we're in it to win it, baby.
There you go. There you go. All right, y'all. Take good care, and I will